Welcome to the Acrosoft Training Video Library and to our Web Fundamentals training. In this training, we're going to review some of the basic fundamentals about the World Wide Web. We'll review connecting to the internet browsers, website URLs and addresses, home pages versus interior pages, navigational links and menus, text, pictures, and media, online form overview, databases, and social media. The internet contains at least 21.89 billion pages, and over 220 countries use the internet every day. In thinking about your website with the size of the internet and the number of users, you're challenged to think about standard practices, practical limitations, and ultimately the end user. So let's start with the basics of how we connect to the internet. We're all here today viewing this video because we're all connected to the internet. What I want to explain here is how your computer connects to the internet. First, computer software is configured usually by your internet service provider's directions. The software communicates accessing instructions to the modem. Your modem converts the signals from your computer to signals that travel over wire lines to an internet service provider, or ISP. Your ISP provides a connection to the internet. Depending on your location, typically you have several choices for internet access, such as cable, T1, broadband cards, Fios, and mobile phones. A web browser is the software program used to access the World Wide Web, which is the graphical portion of the internet. The first browser, called NCSA Mosaic, was developed in the early 1990s. Although many different browsers are available, Microsoft Internet Explorer and Firefox are the most popular, and most Mac users prefer the Safari browser. You can download Internet Explorer and Firefox for free from each company's website, and if you have one browser already, you can test out the others. There are slight differences between the Windows and Macintosh versions. Not only are there different browsers, but there are different versions of each browser. For example, IE6, IE7, and IE8 for Explorer. We always recommend upgrading to the latest version of your browser for new features, security enhancements, and increased usability and compatibility. It's a challenge to work with different browsers and versions because the way you view something on Internet Explorer 8 is going to be different than the way your neighbor views something on Firefox. This is why we recommend always using the latest install version of your browser and why we follow some standard practices when developing websites to make each site look as consistent as possible from browser to browser. Once you have a browser, to access a website, you first enter its address, called a URL or Uniform Resource Locator, in the address box of your browser. For example, the URL to Acrosoft's homepage is http://www.acrosoft.com. The HTTP indicates that the browser and web server will communicate using Hypertext Transfer Protocol. In most browsers today, you don't need to type the HTTP when you're looking for a web page. You can begin by simply typing in the www. You'll notice that the HTTP will appear when the page loads, but this is done through the browser and it saves you time. The www indicates a resource on the World Wide Web, and the Acrosoft.com is called a domain name, and it identifies which computer, called a web server, hosts the site. Your web browser sends a request to the appropriate web server on the internet, and the web server locates the files and downloads them to your computer, where your web browser assembles the pages on your screen. Every page on the internet has a unique URL or address. For example, on this page, after the Acrosoft.com, you see /contact/contact-information. Another page might read training. Each URL takes the visitor to a specific page, and no two pages can have the exact same URL. Sometimes the page URLs are written in easy-to-read format like this one. Other times what comes after the domain name is a long series of what looks like a big mess. But when you think about the internet having billions of pages and each one being uniquely identified, it starts to make sense. So now let's talk about home pages. A website typically has a homepage layout as the first page displayed, and the homepage is the main page. This is the homepage of our training website, and on it you can see some of the Acrosoft Freedom modules available, such as search, menus, events calendar, web pages, news articles, and email marketing. Acrosoft Freedom offers a variety of modules for your website, and you can easily customize your web pages to fit the needs of your business. Interior pages are the pages of content that make up the rest of the website. So for example, here we see the Become a Member page. This is an interior page to the United We Stand website, and home pages and interior pages generally share some common design components, such as here you see that they all have the United We Stand logo and search bar in the header, and the red menu bar on the left-hand side. In Freedom, this is called the interior page layout. Website navigation is the science and skill you apply to a website that helps visitors move from one page to another. A menu is the most common way that your visitors will navigate through your site, and with Acrosoft Freedom, you create menus using our Menus module. You can learn more about how to create menus during our Fundamentals 1 training, and on this page, the two areas I circled in blue are menus, and first you're seeing a vertical menu in red on the left-hand side, and then you also see a horizontal menu at the top. Each item in the menu is a link. For example, in the red bar, the first item is Become a Member, and clicking on that link will take the visitor to the Become a Member interior page. Your Acrosoft Freedom menus can also have submenus, and submenus help keep your menus to a reasonable length for visitors. Menus are a good way of organizing your site for your visitors to be able to navigate through it. You can also have links within your website that are not in a menu. For example, on this homepage, clicking on a news article will link you to the full article. The link serves as a cross-reference between files or documents, and our software makes it very easy to create links by using our simple link wizard. We show you how to do this in our Fundamentals 1 training, and links are typically identified on your website by either using a different colored font, a different style of font, or an underline. Then when you click on the identified text, the instructions defined in the link wizard enable the visitor to be routed to the identified item, which could be a page, an image, a document, or even a video. When developing your site, it's important to think about font selection. Due to the size of the web and the number of different web browsers, there are limited fonts and formatting options available. Browsers can only use the fonts installed in the same computer, so that means that if every visitor of your web page does not have all the fonts you want to use installed on his or her computer, they won't work. For this reason, there are some browser-safe fonts that are common to all versions of Windows and Mac that web designers are familiar with and use. If you have a specific font you want to use and it's not one of the recommended fonts, you can create a graphic image or picture using the fonts. However, this makes it more difficult to edit your website because in order to edit that font area, you would have to recreate a new image each time. It also limits search engine optimization because search engines don't read those images and they may hinder site visitors with visual impairment or those who are using screen readers. Most of us have been using Microsoft Word for a long time, so when we think about websites, we assume the website can be set up to look the way a document does in Word. However, there is software and web tools specifically for websites because there are different needs to be considered when printing a document versus creating a website. Images are identified by DPI, or dots per inch, and DPI relates to the quality of your photos. It's also used to describe print or web images. For instance, DPI of web images is typically 72 DPI. This is very low, but for the web it's acceptable because the images are smaller in size and will download faster. As a point of comparison, most print photos are 300 DPI or higher. You'll also want to remember that monitor size makes a difference in how images can be viewed. For example, if you're viewing a web page on an iPhone, the image will look different on the iPhone than it will on a larger standard-sized computer screen. Similarly, some images will stretch to fit your site depending on the site size, so for consistency you should always use fixed width images so that they'll vary less from browser to browser. You'll also want to resize your website images before you upload them. Most cameras take pictures at 3,000 pixels wide when they should be under 500 pixels for most sites. A pixel is a single point in a graphic image, and in terms of file size, we recommend that your file should be less than 2 megabytes. As an example, you can see that the image used here was not resized for the website and it's much too big. With media, you also need to be aware that video formats differ and that some are not web-friendly. Flash videos and those converted to run through a player like in YouTube work best, especially because YouTube is very popular and provides an easy way to promote websites without many formatting issues. An online form is a great way to collect information over the internet, and here you can see some sample forms. We have a Contact Us form, an e-news sign-up form, and a search form. Contact Us forms are very popular forms on websites, as are ticket forms and RSVP forms, and Acrosoft Freedom's Forms module allows you to create all of these forms and more, including online surveys and order forms. With Acrosoft Freedom, a form field such as the Your Name field is used to allow your visitor to enter information, and then when the visitor clicks Submit, the information is stored in a database system. There are tools like Dreamweaver or FrontPage to help you to set up your forms, which is the easy part, but you can't process your forms with those programs. Using a tool like Acrosoft Freedom's Forms module allows you to create, process, and store your form data, and you don't have to do any programming to make the process smooth for your visitors and for your administrative users. Databases, such as your submitted form information or an email marketing subscriber database, are also an important part of your web strategy. With an interactive website where visitors can sign up for an e-newsletter or submit online feedback about a training, you and your administrative users need to know that the data can be easily accessed. It's also important to mention the role of social media to your website, and many social media applications offer easy ways to link content back to your website from the social media site of your choice. For example, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogs, etc. It's important to remember that social media should be thought of as an advantage. Again, it's a great way to drive traffic to your website, not away from it, and build up a bigger visitor base. All of the things that we've talked about are what Acrosoft Freedom is designed for, and our content management system, or CMS software, enables you to add or manipulate content on your website without programming knowledge, allowing you to make changes to your website on your own as needed and without frustration. For more information about Acrosoft Freedom, visit www.acrosoft.com, email info@acrosoft.com, or call 888-965-3300.